Okay, so understanding and knowing your audience it can be a challenge. Um, Believe it or not, most small business owners I talk to, most business owners, marketers in general, when I say, hey, who's your, do you know your audience? Do you know who they are? Oh yeah, I know everything about them. And it's I think we always, even myself, we always need to take a step back and just like change your mindset a little bit, open it up and say, okay, maybe we do, maybe we don't. Let's see how much work we really put into our buyer personas. Not only that, let's see if anything has changed, right? Because things do change, right? Prime example is just recently I surveyed my clients and people that I'm constantly talking to, and more of them are getting on Instagram. So big old plus for me, right? But that means that I need to be more active on Instagram as well, instead of just Facebook. So things like that change over time, and you just got to like roll with the punches. You got to roll with the flow and be where they are. Otherwise, over time, you lose. Plain and simple, right? So what I want to get into here is just doing some research and helping you understand who your audience is. Now, to begin with, not too long ago, I did a very similar video on this, but now I've had to change it because Facebook took away a lot of what you could see. I'm sure everyone remembers all the shenanigans that happened, January, February of this year, 2018, which led to these massive changes occurring, which is fine. It really doesn't affect me or you, and I will show you ways around it. Okay, so in essence, we start out here. Let's just take, for example, I have a client who it's a dog food company plus another one who's an influencer, just does stuff with dogs. So when we look at pets, dogs, cats, whatever, obviously they have a huge market. So it doesn't matter what your market is. It doesn't matter any of that. Somebody's using this as an example. So let's say I want to figure out a way to target 30 to 44-year-olds who are interested in dogs. And I'm like, let's learn more about them. Okay. So here's, like I said, Audience Insights is a great place to start with your research. But it is a research tool. And that's how we want to think of it. That's how we want to use it. It's not the end all be all. It is not 100% accurate. We just take it for what it's worth and then go from there. Okay. So, when we look at, okay, people 30 to 44 interested in dogs, maybe I want to create a product or I want to see, why they're not buying from us. So then I want to do something. I want to craft a message or an offer around that. So creating, really understanding this audience, understand, the percentage that are on Facebook. Okay. Obviously, if I change this from, if you see the numbers are 25 to 34, let's just see the difference. Obviously, huge difference. So there's this massive change in just 25 to 30. So that's the first point, understanding that, and just saying, oh, it looks like there's more people ages 35 to 44. Well, yeah, because it's just a numbers game, right? But that's not what we want to focus on. We want to focus on the bigger things here. So we want to understand that obviously a higher number of people who are active on Facebook show a higher activity towards being interested in pets such as dogs. And that'd be women here, 64%. That's not to say that men are not interested. It's just to say that activity on Facebook shows this. Okay. So then we go through and we see, okay, they're more likely to be engaged or married than they are to be single or even just basically in a relationship. And that's just their status on Facebook, right? So we're always coming back, we're always thinking about these things in a way where we're not just saying like, this is it, this is exactly what it is, and it's black or white, or it's right or wrong. No, there's a ton of gray area here, so we got to play around with it, and that's why we have to keep an open mind for a lot of this. So on average, they have a college or graduate school level of education. And then we can go through. And so this is always interesting. So job titles. This is not to say that the biggest group of people on Facebook who like dogs are veterans. This is to say, out of veterans, there's a higher percentage of them of them who favor the pet's dogs, right? Same thing, legal services, business, and finance. That's what it's saying. So, like I said, we always kind of need to really think about the data here. So the last thing I want you to do is be like, okay, so if we're going to target stuff for dogs, we got to target veterans, and because they're the highest thing. Well, okay, there's still a small market of veterans, yes, but then you also have to understand your message and offer towards them. Vice, if I'm targeting a healthcare medical professional, right? So things to think about. Page likes, we'll get into that in a second. Location. This is always cool, understanding like where people are located. Activity, this is good to understand as well. I think we could all just automatically assume that people who are interested in dogs and cats are probably a lot more active on Facebook, and we can verify that with the numbers here, right? So the gray in the background is like your average people on Facebook, and your blue is this group of people, okay? This is interesting. Desktop only. I disagree with that. I don't know where that information is coming from. Obviously, that's wrong, right? Obviously, I would say yes. iPhone users more likely. Android users are becoming more of a thing, but they're still not that big of a thing. So this would be something for you to test, right? In most cases, like let's say we're targeting pets, yeah, they're gonna show that activity. That activity is gonna be high when they're on their phones, right? Usually, if you're on your desktop, it's usually for work, or it's at home, or you have an older group of people. So with that as well, you have to understand the psychology of it. Most people are on their phones nowadays. Most everything you got to have mobile friendly. However, when people go in for a conversion, so they spend time going through the buying process, a lot of people feel more comfortable converting on a desktop computer. Okay. So something to play around with too, and test through your numbers to see what happens. So, some of my clients, that's what we do. That's what we find out is that a lot of people we hit on mobile. And then as soon as we get to the very bottom of that funnel, we hit them on the computer, and it works. Sometimes we found that it's mobile across the board, no matter what. Sometimes we found it's the exact opposite. So things are weird. Test everything. Then I like to go into page likes. Now, this is where we can get crafty with our audience. And really, this is where I like to have fun. I have my own sort of, targeting persona worksheet I like to throw in here. This was set up previously for all of the other information that Facebook used to give us. However, you can still use a lot of it, and a lot of it you can fill in yourself, or at least make assumptions and then test those assumptions, right? So for the targeting, this is where I go. I put in, pages that they like, but then I would break these pages up into different things. And so what I like to understand is, who are their gurus or politicians they influence? Who are the people that they look to for information that they trust? Like your Tony Robbins, your Anderson Cooper, your Sean Hannity, your these big name players that you hear all the time. Okay, important to know that, right? Then I like to look at books and magazines. So these are kind of the big things I like to look at. TVs and movies. In essence, what we're doing is we're finding who they trust, who they listen to, where they like to spend their time, what they like to spend their time doing, and where they like to spend their money. All right, so we figure all that out. And I'll show you what to do with that in another module here. But in essence, right now, all we want to do is start collecting the data. And so I think we can attach this worksheet. And you guys can create your own too if you want. Attach this worksheet somewhere so you can use it. This will really help you out. Secondly, when you're looking at doing our research, what we like to break down too is, when we're figuring out these buyer personas. So like I said, previously we received a lot more information, and we could go directly into like, what I'll show you here, Personix. They have like these different value clusters. I think it's like 31 different clusters in which people fit into. And within those 31, those are broken down to 70 separate ones. I know, it can get a little nasty. But like for this, right, here's a prime example. So if age range 24, 29, marital status single, they're renters, they have no kids, they make less than 15 grand, right? They're probably in school or just getting out of school, maybe trying to go for a master's degree, something like that. They live inside of a city. But these are the cool things, right? So when they grew up, giant squid caught on video, Tom Cruise weds Katie Holmes, like all these things. These are triggers, and you can use these as part of your messaging, believe it or not. I've done it before, and it works really well. And not only that, but if you can find influencers within there, even older influencers. So let's say if we're targeting baby boomers, I might be able to find influencers in there, which I can actually reach out to them and maybe pay them or offer them something in order to shoot a video with me or something of that nature, and then help me really promote it. Because when you do something like that, what you're doing is you're bridging that trust gap, right? Because that's really what we're doing here. People will not give you a dime unless they trust you. So we're trying to figure out who they love, like, and trust so that they can love like us, right? And so that's just another thing to go with. But then to also understand their mindset, what they grew up with is a huge thing, huge triggers, and to basically take it from there. Now, obviously, there's so many different clusters. Just like, where does my buyer persona fit in here? Well, here's a link, and we'll post this too. But basically, you can break it down. And excuse me. Apparently, there's 70 distinct clusters with 21 life stage groups. So there you go. You can break it down by age range, marital status, all this stuff. Okay. So cool thing, play with it. Obviously, like I said, just take everything with a grain of salt, test everything for yourself. Don't just assume it's automatically correct. And really all this is this is just data. This is just some points that gives you like a little bit of a hand up on the competition. So then once you have all this kind of filled out, put in there, that's when you go back in here. Remember when I was talking about saved audiences? That's when you go in here and fill it out. And then you start entering, and maybe it's like, I want to target people ages 30 to 44 and who, hobbies and activities, dogs. Will I even pop up? No, of course not. Anyways, I can definitely find dogs on here if I want to take the time. I don't really want to. I was just chatting with you guys. But basically, there's dogs. So that's just the beginning of it, right? We can literally export everything from here into here. And that way, this is how we start creating those audiences to really begin hitting and targeting who it is we want to target. And not only that, we can go beyond just who we're targeting. We're crafting those messages around exactly what goes on in their mind and in their world. Okay, so something to definitely check out, something to play with. You need to know your audience, plain and simple. There's no other way to say it. If you're just like kind of shooting in the dark, like stop what you're doing, take a deep breath, listen to the words I'm saying, go back, and just do the work. This is only going to take you like an hour, and it's like sort of fun sometimes. All right, so make sure you do this.